You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
Welcome to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Indianapolis Star High School sports reporter Kyle Neddenriep. Kyle, of course, does an amazing job for the Indianapolis Star, covering high school sports. Of course, things aren't the way they used to be, Kyle. Things don't get covered quite the way they used to. So we've kind of had to adjust, and I think you've done an amazing job at that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely, we just, there's just not the manpower, like people-wise. I think the people, we do have put out a lot of output, I would say.
Yes.
But,
yes.
They're just not the, obviously, you just don't have the number of people that you used to. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
But your coverage of the Football State Finals will be second to none. I promise that. So everybody go pick up the Indianapolis Star, go check it out online. But right now we're going to talk a little bit about it, and let's start with the first game if you don't mind. Adams Central and Linton. I know that's one that you're not going to know nearly as much about the teams, but what do you know about that game? Should be a good one.
Yeah, actually, I did write a little preview yesterday. I don't think it's run yet, but we will have coverage, preview coverage on all the games, even the out of area games that are coming on Friday. And yeah, having talked to Linton Stockton coach Oliver on Monday, this is probably maybe one of the biggest surprises of the semi-state round was their win over Lutheran. I think. Probably a lot of people had penciled Lutheran in after, they'd moved up to 2A and have won 3 in a row in 1A.
I had penciled in at Lutheran against Brownstown, so Linton took care of both of them.
Linton took care of both of them. They beat Brownstown by 1, and then even more decisive against Lutheran. Now, Lutheran did, unfortunately, their starting quarterback, Jackson Willis, went out with a broken bone in his hand in the sectional final. So, he wasn't able to play the last 2 games of Lutheran's season, which I hate that for seniors. But anyway, regardless of that, Linton put 40 points up. So who knows? They might have beat him anyway. But yeah, Linton is a team that, they haven't been there since 2016. But it's a program that has a lot of history and tradition. And, they run sort of a wing T hybrid spread type offense. So they do run a lot, but they also have thrown a lot this year. And I think that'll be maybe the difference in this game is their passing game. And last year, honestly, Adams Central, they were able to stay in the game against Lutheran because of their passing game. And that's not normally what they do. They're almost entirely running, also sort of a wing T offense. So, they're called the Flying Jets, but they love the ground game. So they're a team. They're going to try to run it, try to basically keep the ball away from Linton as much as they can in this game. And I think it's just kind of cool Adams Central being there again. They're a team that's, I think people probably thought they weren't going to be there going into the year because they also moved up from 1A. They lost all 3 of those games to Lutheran the last 3 years, and then. So for them to make it back in 2A, and probably honestly with the team that, you might not have expected. Last year, I think they were definitely loaded.
Exactly.
They had a great senior class, and now to get back is really outstanding. And they're a team that Coach Mosser up there has done a great job building that program, and so to get back there is pretty outstanding for that program.
3 really good games on Friday. They should all really be good, but this is a new pal team and program that I just expect to win every week at this point.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, and East Noble coach Alex Stewart, he was at Western for a long time,
right.
And he said that I didn't know this obviously, but he said him and Coach Ralph have gotten to be good friends, or He kind of, even before he was a head coach, had reached out to Coach Ralph about building a program. He was a strength coach, and a lot of what Coach Ralph has done has been with the weight program at New Pal, and really sort of diving into that a lot, and they had immediate success, and really pretty amazing what that program has done over the last 11 years now that he's been there, but yeah, they sort of are of the same mold, and I talked to both coaches about that a little bit. I'll have more on that at some point in the next couple of days. But kind of cool that there's a connection from two programs you might not think would have one.
Right.
But yeah, you do kind of wonder. New Pal, they beat Chittard a couple of weeks ago in overtime, and I wonder if looking back, we'll think about that as the sort of the quasi state championship game, just because those teams were so good, and we kind of been looking forward to that game all year. But yeah, New Pal definitely. I think they learned a lot from last year, and just got another year more maturity, and it's paying off. They're going to be a load, and I agree. I think the one other interesting thing to me is that 4A, the South in 4A has really dominated this series in the last, I think 20 of the last 23 winners have come from the South over the North, and the last few have not been close. So of any of the four or any of the 6 games, 4A has kind of been the most lopsided in the last 20 some years. So I do wonder about that. And sometimes you get down there on the field at Lucas Oil and you can kind of see like, oh, that team looks bigger and faster. And I remember having that feeling a couple times, in that 4A game. But we'll see. I mean, Coach Ralph said, East Noble's built a lot like we are. They like to run, but they can also throw. And they're a team that's kind of a traditional type team where they're going to try to establish the ground game and build off that. But yeah, New Pal's a juggernaut. I mean, I think, and the scary thing too is that they might be even better next year.
Oh wow! And of course, that game's at 3:00. The 7:00 game, man. If anybody says they know who's going to win this one, I think they're lying. Westfield and Brownsburg in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference Championship game and state championship game at the same time. Of course, Brownsburg beat Westfield 17-13 the first time at Brownsburg. Man, I bet you're looking forward to this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I covered the first game. It was that weird day where they played a day game.
That's right.
Cool. It was almost like a college game. It's Saturday afternoon, and the place was really hopping. There's a lot of big crowd there for a makeup, basically a makeup game. But yeah, I mean, I think, you're right. I mean, if you know who's going to win, let me know because I have no clue. I don't know if you can look too much into that first game other than to see that it was close, and I expect that to be the case again. But it felt to me, I remember I talked to Jake Gilbert, the former Westfield coach, at halftime that day, and we both kind of agreed, like it feels like Westfield's in control, but they weren't. The scoreboard didn't indicate that. They sort of left some points out there. They, didn't. They went for it a couple times inside the 10 and didn't get it, and then obviously didn't score on those drives, and it kind of came back to bite them. And then by the end of the game, Brownsburg got a kickoff return for a touchdown. That kind of flipped everything the other direction. And then Westfield's quarterback, Carson Melvin, went out and didn't play the fourth quarter. And that was sort of a big thing, too. They just, once they got behind and didn't have him out there, Brownsburg kind of controlled it from there. So, I don't know. I expect Westfield's going to play better. Melvin has been healthy and available these last several weeks. He's played really well. To me, Westfield might be just the best overall team, top to bottom in 6A. But Brownsburg has, and I'm not saying it's not, Brownsburg beat them obviously, so they can obviously win this game too. And they're on really sort of a not a miracle run, but just it's been such a fun ride for this team that just hasn't been there in almost 40 years. So they beat LN that late in that game with just 13 seconds left, went for 2 and got it. They beat Center Grove, who always is there this time of year. They beat that sort of a miracle comeback against Ben Davis, down 28 to start the second half and won. So a lot of confidence. Coach Hart was basically saying, hey, we feel like we're always, it doesn't matter what the score is. They, for whatever reason, they always feel like they're going to win. So a lot of times that's that intangible stuff, matters, and it'll play a factor, I think, on Friday night. But Westfield's just a team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes, so I don't know. It's just it's going to be fascinating to watch, and two programs that haven't, on this stage anyway, haven't done it yet. Westfield won a 5A title not long ago, and they've been there, but they haven't won it. So you just, it's kind of fun that way, where it's, instead of the teams we always see with, Ben Davis and Warren and Carmel and Center Grove, there'll be a new champion this year in 6A for the first time.
Hey, Kyle, Michelle, I'm here now. Sorry.
Oh, hey, Michelle.
So, do you have a prediction on who you think might win then between Westfield and Brownsburg based on what you've seen? Because I'm gonna guess you've seen both.
He saw them play each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I have, and I did pick Westfield to win by one, but basically, I think it's only because Brownsburg won the first game, and I think they're so closely matched. I'm like, I don't know if either team can sweep the other one, but yeah, I think it's a coin flip. I'm not gonna, I don't feel strongly about Westfield for sure, but I think the running game to me will be a huge part of this on Westfield's side. Their offensive line has been healthy and it's been very good all year, and Deacon King has kind of become their go-to guy at running back, even though he's he plays safety, and that's probably what his college position will be. But he's become sort of the guy who carries it for him the most, and so that's worked really well for them. And then they kind of play off that with Melvin and Gabe Arambolas, who's an outstanding receiver, and they have other good receivers too. There's just not a lot of weaknesses, but I think the key thing for Brownsburg will be how they defend the run, and I think that will tell us a lot about how this game will go. And Brownsburg's done a very good job of that too. So I think it's kind of strength versus strength, and who wins that matchup.
All right, on Saturday, North Judson versus Providence, the only unbeaten versus unbeaten game. North Judson just looks like a juggernaut, though.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Brett Lambert, their coach, was there Monday. I was talking to him, and I was like, man, are you having flashbacks? Because the table over from them was Adams Central, and they lost to them in the semi-state the last several chances to try to get to Lucas Oil. So it's like, man, you finally get here and you got to sit next to these guys. But of course, Adams Central in 2A now. But yeah, I think and I don't know. They have 3 rushers over 1,000 yards, and I don't know how often. He was wondering how often you've had a 2,000, a 1,500, and 1,000 on the same team. And I don't know if there's a way to research that, but that's obviously outstanding and hard to believe.
I would check Sheridan teams in the 80s and 90s that's where I would start. But that's
good point.
Very unusual.
Yeah, Cole Wilcox is their main rusher, but also Brock Benson and their quarterback McDaniel is over 1,000. So, and they hardly ever throw it. When they do, it's normally it'll be for long gains because it's kind of catches teams off guard. But yeah, they run it's again sort of like a flex bone type offense, and it's been really hard to stop, obviously, and they've basically just annihilated everybody so far along the way here in their sectional, regional, and semi-state. So, Providence has been a little bit more tested, and they had to come through South Putnam in a really close game in their semi-state, and so now they're playing in the state finals. First time in a long time. So,
and of course, I was down there for 20 some years covering them, and like North Judson, great program, just has never been here before. Both programs are great programs for years and years, and just have never gotten to this point. So interesting in that way too.
Yeah, it should be great. Kind of speaking to that, I mean, I expect a lot of these teams will. Another team we'll talk about in a minute here, but a lot of teams that will bring great crowds, I think, and I think that bodes well for the overall attendance on this weekend, just because you've got a lot of teams that haven't been there, including those that 6A. Even though Westfield's been there, they're going to bring a lot. I'm sure Brownsburg, they brought a ton to Center Grove, so should be good for the atmosphere. And
I'm pretty sure the last game of the year, the entire city of Warsaw is going to be there. So we'll talk about that one in a second.
Yes.
All right, Lures against Heritage Hills, 2 great programs play at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Of course, Kyle Lindsay is a legend. Same with Todd Wilkerson. These programs are get to this point year after year. Ever since Jay Cutler came to Heritage Hills, the the Patriots have been winning championships. And, of course, I was at the New Sentinel back when Lures had Anthony Spencer. So these programs have been winning forever.
Yeah, this will be, again, sort of a, you got Lures who you sort of expect to be there every year. And, of course, they were there last year and won it. So now playing in 3A. And, it's kind of interesting to me. I was talking to Todd Wilkerson, the Heritage Hills coach, on Monday. And, he was saying last year as the players some of the players, as they went off the field, they're like, hey, listen, coach, we're going to be back next year, and he's kind of thinking in his mind, like, guys, you don't know how hard it is to get, it's like, you can't just say that, it's and honestly, their route was so tough. Gibson Southern, Vincennes Lincoln, they had number 1 Evansville Memorial, all in their same sectional. So,
the sectional was a lot harder than the regional and semi-state for them.
Yeah, they rolled through those rounds, but that sectional, man, that might be one of the toughest ever that we've seen. But so I think at this point, and they're a team that, like I said, they have been there before. Their quarterback, Jet Goldsberry, great name, by the way, and he is he's outstanding. I remember watching him last year. They were a little overmatched. That Chittard team, even by their standards, was one of the best teams they've had, and they couldn't do a lot offensively, but I was impressed by him, and I think he's going to give Lures some trouble. Now he's a better passer than he used to be, and also just a great runner. So I don't know. Lures has great athletes. I would never, you never look at their record. They're 10-4 this year, but it's almost meaningless what their record is because they play such good competition in bigger schools. So
not only that, but I think they've gotten a lot better through the year. I've picked them to lose, I think, 4 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, I think he has. I haven't, but he has. Kyle, does Lures have a player like they had with Jalen Smith a few years ago?
Not necessarily. Yeah, maybe not necessarily like that. Their running back Williams has been really good these last, especially like you said during the tournament. He's kind of turned it on. Dario Williams, he's over 1,300 yards on the season, and I haven't seen them play in person. I know their defense has been pretty good too. They handled Garrett Garrett had been putting up a ton of points, and they played really well against them. They have a couple of guys with the Taylors that have over 10. I think one has 8, one has 10 sacks. So they get after the quarterback, and Heritage Hills is not a team that's going to just drop back and throw. So the pass rush maybe not as big a deal, but they do have they obviously have good players, and they're not a big passing team necessarily, but they will throw it. So yeah, I kind of agree. I think Heritage Hills will win, but I don't expect Lures to get blown out of this game for sure.
If I could pick one game to watch this weekend, and I could only pick one, I think it would be the 5A game, if it's not the 6A game. Man, what a fantastic one that is going to be. Warsaw has beaten number 1, number 2, and number 3 in order on the way to the state finals, and now gets number 4 Decatur Central. Speaking of not being able to verify that, I doubt that's ever happened before, especially in order.
Especially in order. I don't think so. But yeah, that would be a great question to have answered. But yeah, I mean it's a team that I remember watching when Warsaw made it to state, when 2010 or 9 or something like. I had to go back and look at basketball, and they played at North Central, and I could not believe, and even Doug Mitchell, the North Central coach, was like, "Man, where are all these people coming from?" And everybody in orange, and I think that'll be the case on Saturday night.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, last game of the high school football season. I agree. I 5A and 6A, and a lot of these games are going to be good. But this one's fascinating to me based on, style of play. Warsaw's good. They're running, obviously with Bart Curtis, that's what he's done in his career, and they rely on the run. The quarterback, Sullivan, will run a lot. And Decatur on the other side, they're more of a dynamic team. Haven't seen them a couple times. They're very, very fast. Casimir Hicks, their receiver, who's a junior, he has offers from several Division I schools already. He's like he's a guy you would see at Ben Davis or Warren or one of those type of players. He's very good, and their quarterback Bo Polston's going to Toledo, also very good. But they just have great weapons around, and their defense is good, is very fast and athletic too. So I'm curious how they match up. The only comparison we kind of have, Warsaw played Warren early in the season and really struggled in that game to move the ball, but Warren's got their defensive line was like something that you'd see at the '85 Bears or something. So that's a tough comparison. But yeah, I don't. It would be the contrast of styles to me. I love that in football. Is when you have two teams that are vastly different and kind of wondering how that will affect, match things up. So, but yeah, Decatur also too. They have the advantage of motivation of having been there last year and not playing well.
Right.
And I think that will factor in. They're very focused and motivated, and that's been a kind of a through line throughout the season for them. So, I think that'll play a factor too. And they're ready to hoist a trophy. I think they're, maybe this is their best opportunity to do that.
So it sounds like you're leaning toward Linton, New Pal, Westfield. Is that right on Friday?
I actually picked Adams Central.
Okay.
But I would favor, that was sort of just a pick of like, hey, they've been there 3 times and maybe they'll win one. I do think Linton's probably the pick, but I did pick Adams Central.
I think Linton is one. I think you hit it. I think maybe, and I know you picked Westville, but I kind of get the feeling that Linton and Brownsburg are kind of like they're on a hit the right thing. They're kind of just on this unique mystique roll.
And Decatur Central maybe too.
And yes.
So and then North Judson, Heritage Hills, and Decatur Central. Those are your guesses on Saturday?
Yeah, I picked North Judson. I picked Decatur, and Heritage Hills. Yeah, all 3 of those. Yeah, and I think again, don't feel. I do think North Judson. Just based on what they've done, and but again, these matchups are hard because you got
yes,
teams.
They are.
There's hardly any comparison to some of the teams, so sometimes you don't know maybe until you see a series or there have been occasions where you're kind of down there on the field like, oh, okay, I see these differences now, but before the game starts even. But I remember one year Penn and Ben Davis, and I was like, oh man, this could be. That was the Ben Davis team in I think 17. That was an outstanding team anyway. But it was like, oh, this could be bad, and it was.
That East Noble team in 2000, the last time East Noble won a championship, every time they were on the field, you felt sorry for the other team.
Yeah.
That kind of team, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've covered a few of those. Ben Davis in 17 was one of the highest. Actually, the next year, Warren Central in 18, which they were pushed a few times, and David Bell was actually not. He wasn't fully healthy at the end of that season, but that team was man, that was a juggernaut too. And they're obviously the Warren teams of the mid 2000s were definitely that way.
Okay, Kyle, real quick because I know you got to go, but I saw your post where Carmel did hire Kevin Wright. It's funny, I kind of wondered that with Greg.
Yeah,
earlier we talked about that because him being back in the state and he having coached there. Did they that happened pretty quick too? Did they target him quickly? Was there mutual interest?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Kevin yet. I just haven't had time. Hoping to do that next week. But I did talk to Jim Inskeep, and I think it was pretty obvious, pretty early, right away that that's the direction they wanted to go. And if Kevin Wright has interest in coaching your program, that sounds like a pretty good thing to me. And plus the fact that he has a history there. He's won there before. So Kevin's been a guy he has kind of bounced around a lot. He's been a lot of different places and coached at a lot of different levels. In different aspects. Obviously, most recently with IU as an assistant there. So he really has a unique resume to a lot of the coaches I cover. He's done a lot of different things, and so I think that's your first call, and if he says yes, then that seems like a slam dunk to me. I don't know if there's anybody who really has anything bad to say about Kevin Wright's coaching ability. And I think it makes, and John Hebert was great. I mean, I worked, enjoyed working with him, and John. No one will say anything negative about John Hebert either. I mean, I think he got a lot out of his players. Players respect him greatly, and I know Carmel does too. But I think maybe it was maybe a time for a change. And if you can get Kevin Wright, then that's a pretty good situation to have. So, and I know they've done some renovations to their facilities there, and Carmel's got great facilities anyway. But yeah, I think Kevin, that's pretty appealing from Kevin's side, I think, too. I can't speak for him, but I assume that's probably the case. And, he's got a lot of energy, and I'm very curious to see how their program does under his watch again.
Now, there's 2 more openings down in that area, right? How quickly do you think they'll be filled?
I've heard Noblesville might be around January. I think they're still in the process and going through things. And remind me again. Well, Warren.
Yes.
Warren opened, and I mean, talking about big jobs. I mean, Carmel, Warren, and Noblesville. I think they're not in that realm of tradition, but they're definitely their facilities, and I think the upside of that program
potential.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that may be one of the most plum jobs out there, to be honest with you. Yeah. But then on the other side, I think Warren, they're going to be going through that process there for a little while, and I don't know where that stands exactly, but yeah, they haven't even basically started yet, so it'll be a while for that one.
All right, Kyle, thank you so much for the time. Let's talk some basketball soon. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle, and don't enjoy your Thanksgiving tomorrow, because I know Friday and Saturday are busy for you.
Absolutely. I plan on it, and probably watching football tomorrow.
That's the great thing about being a sports reporter. Your job is your hobby.
Yeah, and then, like I said, hopefully we get you back on here real soon so we can talk some basketball, because I know there's some good basketball teams and some really outstanding players down in that area, too.
It's going to be a great year of basketball.
You bet. Would love to do it.
Thank you so much to Kyle. Very nice of him to spend some time with us on a very busy week for him. And of course, again, thank you to Michelle for helping out with that interview. And thanks most of all to you for listening. We really appreciate it. Please go like, subscribe, or follow whatever app or platform you are using right now, whether it be SoundCloud or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or now on YouTube, so you don't miss a single segment. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.